think that Chicanos are indigenous or whatever, you know what I mean? But I think that because Chicanos and Chicanas have a particular experience here in the U.S. dealing with like that type of colonialism and that type of racism, you know, I think it's important to understand like our history, you know, because it has been stolen from us and that's been, you know, kept away from us, you know. But at the same time, I feel that, you know, I think, yeah, I mean, one, we have to be in solidarity with the people who are fighting in Mexico, who, in my opinion, are like indigenous people. Like, you look at Michoacan, you look at Oaxaca, you look at Chiapas, you know what I mean? It's like the people in the front lines, or even all of Latin America, you know, all of, like, even North America. You look at people in Canada, like the, you know, Mohawk Nation, Iroquois nations, you know what I mean? They're, like, I think that the key thing to, like, having a liberated people is land, you know? And for, you know, I think one thing I you know, like, that I think Chicanos in particular, like, they like to identify as their homeland is Aztlan, you know, which I think, you know, I mean, and most indigenous people here in the Southwest, like, look at that and say, like, what is Aztlan? You know, I mean, we never heard of it. We never heard of it. We've been here for forever, you know. So I think that for me, it's like we have to, as a Chicano as well. Like, I think you know, I have to work with people here in whichever land I'm on, which is right now LA, which is Tongva, and also connect it with back home. You know, for me, that's like Michoacan, you know. But you know, even though like I feel like I identify more with indigenous people in Mexico, I think that, yeah, I mean, I still have privilege, you know. And but I think for most of us though, we have to look beyond like just what, you know, we're being taught, you know. And I think there's also like this, you know, Mexica centrism, and I think that, you know, more, you know, for a lot of indigenous people in Mexico, like, for example, like where my family's from, like to even be called Mexican is like an insult, you know. So I think we even have to understand that Mexico itself is a colonial state, you know. And but honestly, like, I feel like Mexico itself is suffering from white supremacy, you know what I mean? And a lot of people who identify as like mestizo, a lot of it comes from self-hatred too, you know. You look at my families, like they'll tell their children like, oh, you have to marry a light-skinned girl, you know, you can't marry like a dark-skinned girl because your children are going to be dark-skinned, you know. So there's a lot of self-hatred too, you know. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, even like the struggle for us to find our identity, like that's a struggle in of itself, you know. But you know, I say that, you know, we have to look beyond like what, you know, like the Mexica centrism and even like Chicano itself, you know. I think we have, you know, for me, I'd rather work with indigenous people here and down south, you know, and to have like to fight for liberation in a better world, you know, because we're on their land, you know. I don't know. That's a difficult question.